have such sights to show you.
We're Poppin the Scary Horror Podcast here. I'm your host, Coale, and with me I have my close friend and co-host, Aaron. What's up, buddy?
That's me. Nothing much.
Yeah, how have you been after we took that trip down to the Austin area?
Oh, yeah. We went on a trip in our favorite rocket ship soaring through the sky. Little Einsteins.
I see you're a man of great humanities.
Cultured. Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
very cultured.
Yeah, no. Feeling good. Ready to get back in it. We're in our usual setting again. If there is a usual setting. I guess this is episode 3.
Yep.
And, yeah, we're going to be leaning back. What are we watching today, Coale?
Yeah, so I know it's been a couple of weeks and stuff since I last told you and stuff, but our third movie for this podcast is going to be The Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi from 1981, and it's actually funny, it coincidentally kind of fell like this, because really this year they're actually going to be celebrating their 40th anniversary. It was released October 15th, I believe, in 1981.
Wow.
Yeah, so do you know anything about The Evil Dead? Again, just kind of coming in blindly towards this.
Well, I think I do. I didn't even know the series was called Evil Dead, but it's the one with the camp and the lake and Jason, right? Are those the three? Am I on the right track?
You're on the wrong track,
I'm
buddy.
On the very wrong.
Let me set you off. Although it is funny because the Friday the 13th franchise did start around the same time as Evil Dead.
That Friday the 13th? Okay.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. It's all good. Like I said, I really like having this perspective. Again, just somebody on the outside looking in and stuff. So I'm definitely not making fun of you. I really enjoy getting that perspective of, again, because there's probably stuff that you're a big fan of that I'm on the outside. I'm like, oh, that's the and the and you're like, no, it's not.
No, you're an idiot.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Always appreciated. But no, not quite and stuff. That's the Friday the 13th series and stuff. So was there any other stuff you were able to make connotations to and stuff?
Evil Dead. Is this a zombie movie?
It's weird. It's kind of hard to categorize it as a zombie movie. Really, like, without spoiling anything, it's kind of almost like its own thing and stuff. It does dive more into the ethereal realm, I'd probably say.
Okay.
Around there.
Sure.
Again, just kind of keeping it very light around, but it's actually funny because The Evil Dead is one of the first movies that I was thinking about because I was like, man, like I have to ask Aaron if he's seen that franchise and stuff, because it seems like something you would have watched and stuff, especially with it starring Bruce Campbell and stuff. Again, he seems like an actor you would really like a ton and stuff. Are you familiar with Bruce Campbell in any of his works?
Heard the name. I can't conjure a face.
Yeah,
I don't even know who Bruce Campbell is, really.
No worries. But you know who Sam Raimi is, right?
No.
Oh. All right. So this is news. So Sam Raimi is a director and stuff, obviously alluded to directing Evil Dead, but he's made a ton of other films also. Another horror film is Drag Me to Hell.
Okay.
And also he directed the first 3 Spider-Man movies.
Oh, the Tobey Maguire ones.
Yeah, the Tobey Maguire ones.
Sure.
Yeah, that was him.
Classic.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get some like Venom action. We're gonna get some, pizza time action.
No pizza time.
Okay.
That's a for sure. Venom. Kind of depends how you look at it. It's a very, I'm trying to tiptoe around the whole idea here and stuff.
Sure.
So really, you don't have too much of a ground basis on what to expect from The Evil Dead.
None whatsoever, apparently. Yeah. There's not even a camp. There's no camping.
I mean, there's camping's a light term and stuff.
Okay.
It's more like unauthorized Airbnb.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of like what it is and stuff.
Squatting.
So yeah, it'll be really interesting and stuff since with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you kind of had heard it and stuff and kind of knew stuff about it. And then with Hellraiser, you just saw the character,
Yeah,
right?
I knew the character. Yeah. Pinhead Larry. Yeah, I knew him. But I didn't know anything else about that series.
Okay,
So I guess this is complete nothingness.
Yeah, well, this is going to be really great, and we haven't seen the movie yet, and so we're going to go ahead and watch it real quick, and we'll be back with you in just a split second as we dive into The Evil Dead, so be back in a moment!
Woo!
And we just finished watching The Evil Dead and stuff. And before getting into the synopsis of the film for people who haven't seen it, Aaron, since you kind of went in with like zero expectation, how did you come out kind of not knowing anything remotely about this movie?
There was no lake, there was no hockey mask, but there was plenty of evil and a good amount of dead too. So.
Yeah, so it just kind of plays up to it and stuff, and I believe The Evil Dead wasn't even the original title they were going to go with. If I remember correctly, I think it was almost going to be called The Book of the Dead.
That would be a little more on the nose.
Yeah, just a little bit, but I think Evil Dead, it has a nice ring to it and stuff, so yeah. And for those, before kind of getting into more of the nitty-gritty of it and stuff, for those that don't know, The Evil Dead is basically, what I would summarize is a group of 5 friends that go out to hang out at a cabin, and there in the basement they find a book along with a very suspicious dagger, allegedly looking like Bruce Campbell's ex-girlfriend in the film.
That was the zinger, yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing Scott decided to do, but and from there, they also find a tape that was a recording of somebody that had lived at the cabin who was an archaeologist and stuff and had found this book bound in flesh. And from there, things start to kind of get out of control and stuff. It's kind of like with the Hitchhiker and Texas Chainsaw that kicks things off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what was your overall thoughts of the movie and stuff?
Okay. Let's see how I can word this without getting too much into spoiler territory. It was a good time. It was fun. This is definitely this is what I think of when I think of people talking about, you probably heard the term body horror. Yeah. So this is what I think of not only when I hear the word body horror, but in film more generally when they talk about body genres. I think Linda Williams had that theory about horror, porn, and romance are all body genres where they're intended to elicit a physical response from the body of the viewer, right? And I definitely had a lot of bodily response to this movie versus the last few we had. I was cringing a lot, wincing, anticipating something happening, and there was a lot of jump scares, so I was definitely reacting to those as well. So this was a little bit more like traditional what I think of, because I think when I think of horror, at least before this project, I thought of, scary, spooky, jump out at you, in like trying to scare you. I don't think Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Hellraiser were either like explicitly constantly trying to scare you as much as they were telling a unique story. And I feel like this one was there was definitely a lot more moments where they were attempting to scare the audience.
Yeah. So, well, and that must be kind of like new to you, because again, you're kind of rolling in with like a more kind of like, just experiencing the story as it goes. But with Evil Dead, you're basically just trapped in this cabin and stuff with the protagonist as they try to go against their foes and whatnot.
Right.
So, yeah, and my history with this film previously and stuff, since I guess I didn't give my experience before on that, is basically I had heard about this series and stuff from the internet and stuff. It was kind of like around the 2010s type deal, so whenever YouTube and stuff, a lot of people were able to vocally say what their favorite films are and stuff like that, I heard the Evil Dead series a lot. And for me, everyone always talked about the second one so much, not so much the first one. So once I had decided, hey, I kind of want to dive in and take a look at this and stuff, I kind of was like you, I had zero expectation and stuff. And I was very surprised with how pretty grim and depressing it is and stuff.
Gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of, gore, I think for the sake of gore.
No, my gosh, yeah. It's definitely doesn't hold back any punches, and that's kind of like what the Evil Dead series is known for, is lots and lots of blood and stuff. They definitely aren't shying away like Texas Chainsaw, since they were trying to get a lower rating, and with Hellraiser, really the gore wasn't too much of the point of the film and stuff. So yeah, kind of because this is like one of the first films I remember watching whenever I decided, like, okay, I'm jumping all into horror and stuff. And so yeah, there's definitely a lot of cringeworthy scenes, as you mentioned before and stuff. And this is definitely one that I'm kind of glad wasn't your very first introduction to horror and stuff. But instead, like, you've kind of gotten a feel of the horror genre, and now you're kind of getting more to what you kind of expected from horror, as you mentioned previously.
Right.
But yeah, whenever it comes to the film itself, I think a lot of the strengths is kind of like that darkness and stuff that is inherently in this movie and stuff. And there are like a couple of, like, you know, zinger jokes type deal and stuff, but for the most part it doesn't really have too many jokes. It's pretty straight to the point when it comes to the horror of the movie. And as for the protagonists and stuff, you know, it's funny because you look at it and they're pretty fairly likable. They don't really do anything that makes you hate them or anything, kind of like unlike our good old boy Franklin we keep referring to and stuff, where he just kept making himself the bad guy amongst the group with his annoyances and stuff. So it was kind of interesting that really nobody is that annoying survivor you just want to die already and stuff. It's just them kind of panicking as they realize the situation that they are currently in.
And some panicking more than others. Bruce Campbell is cool as a cucumber, man. People are dying. He's just like, I'm just going to leave my girlfriend in the other room while people die, and nothing bad will happen.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the interesting thing is you get that perspective. For me, it was kind of Scott who was the main character and stuff.
It was yeah, Scott was the one that was pulling his weight for the longest time up until he didn't. But yeah, you could tell from the beginning, though. I could tell from the beginning that Bruce Campbell was like the POV character, because like Scott goes down in the basement first, and you don't hear from him, and it's not till Bruce grabs the lantern that the camera starts following him, right? So it seems like the camera, when there was an opportunity to be on Bruce, was always on Bruce. So
yeah,
I
sure.
I kind of got that, but yeah, Scott was definitely the most competent one there, even though he was an asshole.
Oh my god, yeah, he was kind of a jerkwad in a lot of stuff. So again, it kind of helped you sympathize more with Bruce Campbell's character, Ash, and stuff. And so that's like the interesting thing about it is the fact that Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, who directed the film, they're actually high school buddies. So they're making a film. So it kind of makes sense. It seems like they would try to project the attention towards Ash as a character, since again, they're like close buddies and stuff, and they work together on making this film.
Right. And even when the credits roll, I mean, the first name you see is starring Bruce Campbell, right?
Yeah, so just like smack dab right there. But really, the other thing I think we could kind of get into, and the facts that I think is a strong point, is, again, you kind of mentioned the blood and gore and stuff like that. This film came out in 1981, and although you could tell it's like practical effects, especially since the version we watched was the remastered 4K edition, which if you haven't gotten it yet and are thinking about upgrading, I definitely think it's worth an upgrade. It was cool because it actually showed the film in the original 4:3 it was originally displayed as, so it was kind of a unique experience overall. So that tangent aside, definitely recommend picking up the 4K if you're able to get it. But looking at the gore itself, it's incredible seeing how much work they did into like any blood or gore that was like thrown in.
Oh yeah, and at the end, even all that like claymation and stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it was like kind of goofy in some parts, like with the book and the tongue that was like.
Oh my gosh.
It was. It was still. You got to put a lot of work into that. And even some of the props. I mean, like that dagger in the book and everything, were cool. You know.
Yeah. No.
For what I'm guessing was a student film. I think you said. Is that?
I think it was a student film. It was definitely an independent film. I was actually going to check out and see what exactly budget they were working for.
Right, because whenever because that was the first thing I commented on whenever we started watching it. I was like, oh, it's in 4:3. Like, was this made for TV? Was this a student film? What was this? So
yeah. And looking right through here, if my internet, there we go. It looks like the overall budget for the first film looks like Wikipedia, of course, stating this, states that it was around $375,000.
Okay, well, yeah, it's a low budget, but it's much more than a student film budget that I would typically think of.
Oh, for sure, yep. So I think I might have mixed it up with another film, but it looks like this was just a self-produced film and stuff.
Kind of early. I mean, Bruce Campbell looks pretty young there, even though I'm not super familiar with his work or anything.
Yep. It looks like Renaissance Pictures and stuff was the film production and television company found by Sam Raimi. So yeah, it looks like it was his own little studio, but it was one of his very first films he did and stuff, and really for like one of his earlier films and stuff, I do think it's a stronger one. Granted, I know you don't know this, but out of the 3 movies that exist for The Evil Dead, this one does happen to be my least favorite and stuff, just because I feel like the overall tone I've come to appreciate comes in the later films. That's whenever I think Sam Raimi is finally able to kind of be like, okay, here's what I want to do. Whereas this one, it still felt like he conveyed the tone he wanted to go for, but I think when it came to the sequels, I think he just nailed a formula that was like perfect and unique to him.
Nice.
And stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the likes and stuff. And again, story's fairly standard. I know we've seen kind of stuff similar, like they go somewhere, figure out something's up, they need to get out.
Right. Like, even though I haven't been exposed to a lot of horror, you know, we're all familiar with the tropes, and I feel like it checked a lot of those off the list, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, for sure. Especially like with the car and stuff like that.
The car doesn't start, yeah. The bridge is, you could tell it's going to fall apart right whenever they drive it. It's a cabin in the woods. No, they don't really explain, maybe I missed it, but they don't really explain what their connection to this cabin is. He just like reaches up, he's like, I know where the keys are, but we don't know anything about this guy that was researching voodoo magics in the basement. Or
you know, it's funny you say that, because I kind of ran into the same issue whenever I first watched the film and stuff, because I was kind of thinking like, why are they going to the cabin? Because they've actually, in the remake, they added more emphasis onto why they're going into the cabin here.
I think that'd be helpful, because one of my main criticisms probably for this movie is there's always a certain like level of like, you know, suspension of disbelief that I have going into any sort of genre film, but there were just a few things that were like big enough plot holes for me to be like, I want a little more context here. Like, why that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, with the first film, the way they make it look out is just the fact that they're wanting to go there on vacation, you know, like an Airbnb, but that's about it.
Yeah, but like, why do they know this exists? It seems like the main guy, Sam or whatever, had been there before, but like no one else had, and they hadn't evidently explored the basement, and they hadn't, you know, like, what is this house to them? All it would take was one line or something like, hey, this is my uncle's old place or something, you know, and then bam. But I didn't get that, so I was like, why do they know where this place is?
Yeah, exactly.
And why is there only one exit in and out, and you know, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but the only thing I could think of is the fact that it's like, maybe it's like one of Scott's like family friends and stuff like that, because he knows where the keys are in and stuff, but that's about the extent of it. Right.
And again, I might have just missed one line somewhere, but that's all it would take for me to solve that mystery is... why do they know what this place is?
Yeah, and so I think the downside for me and stuff, because you may be asking, well, why does this one kind of fall less in favor as opposed to the other films for me. And again, it is the tone and stuff that I've come to appreciate later, where I feel like they figure out the formula. But the other thing is the fact that, you know, I'm usually like open for like anything in movies and stuff like that, but sometimes it gets to certain scenes, again, like we've mentioned before, like obviously the gore and stuff, but then there's just like a lot of very particular one scene that happens towards the very beginning of the movie and stuff. First time I saw that and stuff, I was very shocked, to say the least, if you know what I mean.
Right, I feel like it's designed to shock you. There's a lot of time, and before that even, there was like, this is a movie with some booby. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of horror movies do that because they're getting the R rating anyway, so they're just like, booby time. But like, similar to how the first episodes of a lot of HBO shows will just toss in boobies to get you to watch, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. People like boobies. I'm not complaining about the boobies. I'm just saying there were some boobies. But then, this is the other part of that coin that I don't like. There was some sexual violence. And that's always like, I know I'm here to cringe because I'm watching a horror movie, but like, I don't want to cringe that way.
And we'll probably talk more about it going into spoilers, but this is something I definitely want to warn for people going into this movie. That, I mean, aside from the gore, that one scene is definitely kind of hard to sit through for me personally. Like, and so that's why for me, like, you know, I never really like docking a film, just be like, oh, I liked everything except this one thing, so you know. But just overall, it's something that I never look forward to. In fact, whenever it came up, I was just kind of like, okay, here comes this part.
And I think my issue with it is there wasn't an in-universe reason that I can tell, because when I first saw it, I was like, this is really uncomfortable, but I guess that's how the evil gets in the body or whatever. But then that wasn't the case.
No.
So I was like, oh, okay. So it seems like a frivolous reason to put in sexual violence, and I feel like if you're going to put that in a movie, you got to have a real good reason.
No, for sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's the one thing Sam Raimi has gone back and said if he could change anything, he would just remove that scene entirely, because he's like, there was really no point in adding that. It just kind of was, in a moment, it probably seemed like a good idea for him, but then as time went on and stuff, he just kind of grew to regret it and stuff. And I think that's definitely a valid point for him to have and stuff. And so that's, for me, is kind of like one of the biggest downfalls. Again, not necessarily being like, oh, it has this one scene, don't watch the movie at all. I definitely like to at least give people the warning about it, because if you're not prepared for it and stuff, it could definitely be a lot more brash and shocking to you. And I know we're kind of like tiptoeing around spoilers and stuff like that. Is there any other points we could possibly make without kind of just diving right into the meat?
Dive in.
Oh, okay.
I want to be in the meat. I want to be meated up.
I mean,
Meet me.
What if there's...
Meet me in the middle.
I don't know about that one, buddy. Okay, so I guess before jumping into spoilers and stuff, I guess we could get to our overall recommendation and rating. So I'll start with you, Aaron. Overall, with The Evil Dead, what would your recommendation be? And
this is saucy. We're doing the recommendation in the middle before all the context.
Well, I mean, we do it so that way people don't get spoiled ahead of time.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
If I was given like a real hard-ass movie critic review, I'd give this movie a 5.
Ooh.
But don't take that as like I didn't enjoy it, because I did. It's a good time. And I would recommend somebody watch this if they're in the mood for, you know, a real gruesome, supernaturally type of horror movie. I would, but with all that being said, if I'm looking at it through a critical scope, I'd give it a solid 5. That's an average.
Yeah, no, for certain. And I think that's totally fair for the film that's here and stuff, which again, it's kind of like one of those rough things, because for me, I want to show you the Evil Dead series, but it's just kind of like, well, I gotta show you the start, you know what I mean? Which is always kind of like difficult, but although some people have started watching 2 first and stuff, because that's like probably the most favorite of the series and stuff, but a lot of people also like Army of Darkness a lot, and there are people that genuinely do like this first movie a lot too, but just the overall voices I hear in favor of one film over the other, usually the first Evil Dead kind of comes last and stuff, which again, for me personally, it is my least favorite of the Evil Dead franchise. However, I don't think that should dissuade anybody from watching it. But yeah, given the fact that it is fairly gruesome and I have been a little bit spoiled to what the series has in store, I'm kind of with you on the lower rating and stuff. For me, like I can't put it any higher than a 6 personally and stuff. So like 6 out of 10 is where I rank with it and stuff. And again, it is a good movie. It's just, again, like especially that one scene in particular that's really kind of definitely makes it a harder film to watch. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, that's my overall recommendations, views. And so we're going to jump right into more of the spoilery territory. And I think, yeah.
Spoiler number 1: she gets raped by a tree.
Yeah. That is, whenever
it's rough.
Yeah, it is a rough scene. Like, it was even rough whenever I was like a teenager. You know, when you're like more desensitized to actual like real life horrors and stuff like that. And even back then, I was like shocked by it. I was like, "Oh my god, is this happening?" And it just this is probably the 3rd time I've seen it. It doesn't get any easier to watch.
No, I feel like those scenes typically don't. I mean, they're designed to have an impact on you, and this one, I just think was in poor taste. And I think you've alluded to the fact that the director also has come to figure out that it was in poor taste. So
yeah, I think it was just one of those moments where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this," and then it's like one of those edgy jokes you made as a teenager where you go back and look at it and you're like, "Okay,
I know that.
yeah."
I found some YouTube videos I probably should delete from the internet before I get canceled.
Yeah, probably so. But yeah, so with that tree assault scene and stuff, like that's just the one part of the movie that I'm just like, I literally could do without. That's probably like my major strike against it, which again, it doesn't like ruin the rest of the movie, because again, there's still a lot of like good stuff. Again, just like the fact that it does focus more on the fact that these people are terrified, the fact that they're not able to leave this cabin or the area, and the Evil Dead is just attacking them from all around and stuff, which that was one thing I really like a ton, is the camera work. Like that swooping camera and stuff, which
really good.
It was never really implemented in films before, so this was kind of like a new technique they introduced to this film and stuff.
Even towards the end, there was just this shot where they made the decision to, whenever Bruce Campbell like opens the door to see what evil lies ahead on the other end of the cabin or whatever, they just decided to shoot it at like an angle, and so the whole room was like looking at a diamond instead of a square, and it's Bruce Campbell in this doorway illuminated kind of a silhouette, and it's just one of those really simple decisions I'm sure they made on the fly, and it's not like the most iconic shot in the movie or anything, but just little angles like that are just like, yeah, they did that really well.
No, the cinematography is definitely really good, and they definitely don't shy away from a lot of the gore effects. I mean, that one other scene that's a cringe scene, but it's like not so much like a, man, why did they put this in a movie, but more like, oh man, that's brutal, is whenever man, I'm already forgetting names and stuff, but whenever Linda gets stabbed in the ankle with that pencil, and they don't shy away from it. It's not like a quick stab and stuff. They show it retching right into the tendons. That scene is a majorly brutal scene and stuff. So that was also another scene that even when I was younger, I just remember that scene specifically.
That should be a pencil commercial. That was a strong pencil.
Oh my god, yeah. But I don't think the pencil companies would really want to. You too can stab your friends in the ankle.
Just imagine that scene and then a little overlay that says something about like Bic pencils, about like, you know, our graphite never breaks, you know.
No, for sure. But yeah, that's the gore, like I mentioned before, like just the effects are able to do, and they don't shy. The amount of blood that is shed and stuff, like especially whenever old Scotty here starts chopping away,
it's gratuitous.
Yeah, it's crazy. Which, you know, I'm sure they did that on purpose just to really emphasize the gore aspect stuff, just so it's sold.
There's even one point where Scotty's in the dead mode and he's trying to kill Bruce Campbell, and he like pulls a bone out of his leg, and just this liquidy blood just like fires out.
Oh
like
my
a hose.
gosh, yeah, it wasn't even like a trickle thing. It was like a fire hose going doing that, and so
they turned it to 11. I mean, I feel like that was a lot of the they probably sat down. I mean, I don't know this for sure, obviously. I could just see Sam Raimi like sitting down, just like thinking of these gruesome scenes, and then like building the rest of the movie around it. You know what I mean?
No,
He's
for
like,
sure.
I want this to happen.
Which I think it definitely helps out in its favor and stuff. It helps make it stick out more in the fact that they are adding a lot of blood and stuff like that. And not to mention, I kind of struggled kind of giving you hints on what exactly is the antagonist of the film and stuff.
Right.
And
what is?
It's the Evil Dead and stuff. And so the interesting thing is the term would be later termed in other films where if you're possessed by evil and stuff, you're known as a Deadite. However, in this film, they didn't really have the film mention what they are and stuff, and not even the credits mentions it. So in the credits, if you see like a ton of actors who actually stepped in to be like the Deadites in makeup, they're actually known as fake shimps, and that's referring to
that.
Yeah,
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not a real simp, you're a fake simp. But shrimps. Yes.
No, shimps.
Shrimps.
After the Three Stooges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell also is a big fan of the Three Stooges and stuff, and so that's why you saw like Bruce Campbell do a lot more of the physical sense. Like, he's thrown it to a shelf like twice, I think.
There was 2 different shelves falling. That guy has to figure out how to get out of a light shelf that is on top of him.
Yeah.
He struggled both times.
No, for sure, and that was the thing also, is the fact that it was like a brutal shooting and stuff, because they're out in the cabin, there's no plumbing and stuff. Yeah, they're not near anything. I wondered
if the whole thing was in that cabin. If that that basement complex and everything, is that the full cabin? Do we know?
I think like a lot of it was shot around the cabin. However, I think if I remember this correctly, I think it's either this one or the second one where it's shot in a high school gymnasium, but I might be thinking of the second one.
Yeah, I bet it's the second one, yeah.
Yep, that's the second one there. But yeah, so it was like pretty much just hanging around that cabin throughout the entirety of time, and there'd be times where Bruce Campbell is just coated in blood that whenever he had to drive home, he had to sit in the back of a pickup truck.
I bet. Yeah, at the end there, that was definitely one of the most gratuitous scenes where there's like a pipe that's like strewn up in the straps of one of the first victim's robes or whatever, and he unties it, or he gets untied, and just like blood just covers him, and the little movie screen starts projecting blood on the wall, and he's just covered head to toe in blood.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get more gratuitously bloody than that.
No, for sure. And referring back over, I'm just going to keep calling them Deadites just for the sake of the series, but one of the things I do find interesting about the Deadites and stuff is they are genuinely pretty creepy and stuff, but the thing I like the most is the fact they're able to revert back to their human state and stuff, which I think we've seen like other kind of supernatural creatures do that before and stuff, where they're like, no, it's okay, I'm good and stuff, but it definitely helps just kind of weigh on their hearts because of the fact they're having to kill somebody they knew. So it's kind of like a zombie in a sense, but the zombie's not going to turn back and be like, hey, I'm okay and stuff, trying to trick your brain into thinking, oh, well, maybe they're okay now.
Right, and I think that was one of the strengths, really, is because I think the main plot that was, at the core of this movie was the relationships between the 2 couples were like some of the main tension points, because it's the women that turned into Deadites first, and it was like a straining relationship, and you could see my man Scotty, he's equal rights, equal fights. He doesn't mind cutting up his girl and tossing.
Oh my gosh, no.
But the Bruce, who I might point out is the only one that was listening to that tape recorder that said you need to dismember them. So I don't know that Scotty had that information. He just started hacking. But Bruce knew that and couldn't bring himself to tear apart Linda, even though he went all the way as to drag her out after stabbing her with the cum knife. That's what I'm calling that.
The cum knife?
Yeah, the knife that you stab in their backs and it makes them cum out of all of their orifices.
I mean,
it was white fluid that was just shooting out of their limbs. What else could it be?
Poppin the Scary, am I right?
Oh my god.
After stabbing Linda with the cum knife, he decides to BDSM her in the shed with some chains, and he brings out the chainsaw, but then he can't bring himself to do it, which I get. And that was one of the more genuine, like, okay, you know, Bruce is like the most human person left.
Yeah,
which is
for sure.
Obviously symbolic in itself. I mean, this film had a lot of symbolism. In the beginning, they kind of beat you over the head with it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing I could definitely appreciate is in this film, you know, Ash Williams and stuff is more portrayed as more meek and stuff,
Yeah.
like, and genuinely caring and stuff, where I didn't even notice this until the third time, that you're right, Scott is kind of a douche-canoosh, you know what I mean? Because he's, like, willing just to chop up, like, Shelley just like firewood and stuff.
Which I get. That's like the rational us watching kind of scenario where you're like, okay, it's obvious she's some sort of demon-possessed thing that's not turning back now. You got to start cutting her up.
For sure.
That's like our perspective. But then Bruce is like really more the sort of realistic in the moment, and especially when they start playing with his emotions. His sister, I keep calling him Bruce because it's Bruce Campbell. Ash.
Yeah.
You know, his sister and his girlfriend like reverting back to normal is enough to make him drop the gun, which I don't know that I would just drop the weapon upon seeing this zombified figure, you know, turning back into my girlfriend. But he made a lot of questionable decisions.
For sure.
Of course, that's some of the fun of horror movies.
For sure.
All of them make questionable decisions. Why did the woman in the first place was like, "There's something outside. Let me walk into the dark woods to investigate."
That was a pretty bad decision overall and stuff.
And then she forgot apparently the door she came out of because she was fumbling with the keys on the front door and banging. And I think just go around.
I think she went to the back door and stuff.
Yeah.
And so then she's trying to go through the front door, and nobody's hearing the slamming of the door. It's a very small cabin.
They're all just like not very alert. I'm convinced because whenever Scotty leaves his girlfriend in the other room, she's like screaming whenever the evil breaks through her window or whatever, and it takes him like 5 minutes to let me just mosey on over and see what's happening here. Both of the guys were just like, a steady hand, and that didn't always work in their favor.
No, for sure. But again, I don't think the decisions are so bad that it's like, okay, what are you doing? Stop. I mean, again, there are some prime examples, kind of like when Cheryl does wander into the woods after already being on edge that deep,
right,
and stuff. And so that's kind of like the thing with me is I can appreciate a lot of things about this film, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I never gripped onto me. It wasn't until the later movies where I'm like, okay, heck yeah, I see where this is going.
Right.
But was there any other points or things you liked, disliked about the movie now that we're in like free reign territory?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the symbolism in the beginning was kind of fun. I even like that. Even Scotty made a joke about beating somebody's face in. One of the women's he was like I'll beat your face in, and they were all like haha laughing. And then later I believe that is the same woman that he does beat her face in with the back of an axe.
They're really good at doing stuff like that. Like it shows Scott chopping away at wood and stuff earlier,
right.
And then he's having to chop away later.
Right.
And also one of the other scenes is whenever Ash is planning on giving Linda like the necklace and stuff, he's pretending to be asleep, then opens his eyes and then closes his eyes whenever she looks. And then if you remember, whenever he was burying Linda, the same thing happened where her eyes open, and every time he looked, it was closed.
That's smart. I didn't even pick that one up. I feel like it's definitely something you could rewatch over and over, and pick up new little details. So
for sure.
It does have a depth to it, despite having a lot of like little plot holes and stuff.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why it still sits at a very like strong 6. It can't go any further than that for me personally, but I still like this movie a bit, and I do plan on probably watching it sometime in the future. Maybe not as much as I will the sequels, because I like the sequels a ton, so whenever we get towards those films, I'll be really excited to show you kind of where they went from this first movie onwards and stuff. But overall, I think this movie is definitely still a solid recommendation, as long as you kind of go in being like, okay, this isn't going to be like even though it was made in the 80s and stuff, it's not like a light R. It's a
Right.
it's a pretty hard R.
Oh yeah.
And stuff.
It's a hard R.
Yeah.
We're co-opting that term for this episode.
Yes,
guess.
exactly.
A hard R rating.
Yes, I would definitely just be prepared and stuff, like I said, for that one tree scene.
Yep.
And stuff, and of course all the gratuitous amounts of blood. And before ending it off, another effect that I really found cool that's always stuck with me is whenever Ash is looking at the mirror and he sticks his hand through and it's like a pool of water. I think it's like one of those things that really it didn't need to be in the film, but I'm glad it was because it was a cool effect they were able to pull off.
Right, it was neat. It was just like a good way to demonstrate, how much of a hold the evil has on the woods and in this cabin. So,
but yeah, I think that probably
I do have one more thought, probably totally discredited by the future movies. I don't know this. Is there some sort of fan theory existing, or am I creating this? That
I gotta hear this.
Actually, it's just Bruce Campbell's character, Ashley or whatever, Ash is just going crazy, and he actually just murdered 4 people in a cabin.
You know, without giving too much away, that's not the craziest thing I've heard.
Because I feel like I'd have to rewatch it with that lens, but there was a part of me when I was watching that was like, okay, really a lot of these, with the exception of like, you know, whenever the camera's following like the initial character in the woods during that scene, or like those sorts of things, like for the most part, it seems like a lot of this is, since we're seeing it through the lens of Ashley and he's the only one that survives, right? Did he just like go crazy and murder 4 people? And he's the one that takes like not Linda but the other girl,
is it Cheryl?
His sister, yeah,
Cheryl.
And he's the one that gets her in the car and then goes and says the bridge is broken or whatever, and then when they come back she's like crazy and he has to kill her, you know. What if he's just the murderer the whole time and the bridge isn't actually broken, you know?
You know, that's not the craziest thing I've heard. I have not heard any theories about it. However,
I'm sure there's holes in this theory, but
maybe I don't. Oh man, I have to like tiptoe around this without giving too much away. But let's just say keep that in mind whenever you're prepared to watch Evil Dead 2, because that's definitely a movie we're going to hit on later. It won't be the next film, however, and stuff. I'm going to try to save it a little further back, like maybe we do some sequels after getting kind of a ground foundation of just this realm of horror we're diving into and stuff. And you know, I think one of the very important films that we should probably watch next for our next episode, it's a film that you've mentioned quite a few times and stuff, and it's going to be very appropriate since we're going to be watching it in the month of October and stuff. Really celebrate the holiday season with a certain movie that is in tangent with the holiday.
You gotta be talking about Halloween Town. The Disney Channel no, I'm just kidding. We're talking about Halloween, right? Dang it! You figured it out!
Oh my god!
We're talking about Halloween, right? We gotta be watching Halloween next.
Yeah, yes. I know you're super excited.
Yeah, I'll totally touch on my thoughts in the next one, but this is one that I like have some sort of pop culture preconceived notions about, and but I've never seen the movie, and so I'm interested to see what I fabricated in my mind and what's real.
Yes, exactly. So thank you guys listening to our episode here, and I hope you'll be ready whenever we're going to be popping the scary with Halloween.
Yeah, that's the pop. There you go. That's my scary pop.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @CoalkirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're popping the scary.